that situation was really, really awkward for, I think right now I'm thinking like as a doctor or professional, how awkward was for her to like telling me, and a bunch of doctors was there. And yeah, so I think what are you actually doing? It is like a telling, building people up to have a conversation. So when we're having like telling someone bad news, or could be someone passed away, someone had a car crash, telling a certain way, telling them. So how do you teach your and how do you coach your clients to tell in a way like other people don't get offended, and other people don't get like a heart attack or something, like telling them there is a way to tell them. So how do you actually do that?
Yes, that is so important that you bring that up, breaking bad news. And I love that you brought that up because it's something that
Yeah.
on the podcast I've done, nobody's asked me before, but it is so incredibly important. What I like to do and what I encourage other people to do is to preface that conversation with some information to help set the conversation up for success. So as a personal example, in the line of work I do, there are times where the patient is not getting better, they're actively getting worse, and we recognize that they need to transition to hospice. But simply coming in and saying, you need hospice, we're leaving, would never be well received and would never be the way to handle it. So a lot of times when I'm having to go in to have those conversations with people, the first thing that I will do is tell them, okay, we need to talk about something. I kind of set them up. This is a conversation where we all need to be paying attention because it's going to be a little difficult. But I just say, okay, we need to talk about something. This might not be a great conversation, but we need to have it because I'm seeing this and this and this. So maybe I'm seeing this kind of decline or this sort of, whatever it is that led me to the decision that was best for them, And I go through that because I don't want to just come out and say, here's some bad news. The very first thing that I want to do is explain my thought process behind why we need to have this conversation. So I'm seeing this, or he has been in the hospital 4 times in the last 3 weeks for the same issue. We've done this and this, it's not getting any better, and I'm trying to run them through the timeline, and I'm trying to run them through my thought process so that when I say, if it's hospice, a lot of times I don't just say they need hospice. I will phrase it more of, at this point, it really feels like hospice might be the better option, or that hospice might be able to provide services that we can't provide. So I try to help the person to understand why it's a more supportive option. The outcome, and hospice is a whole other topic. So the person is not necessarily in imminent danger of passing away in the next week or 2 just because they went on hospice. But most people do feel that way. They feel that it's a death sentence. And so to make sure that I preface it by saying, we need to have a conversation. These are the things that I'm seeing that are making me feel like this might be a better option for you, that's going to give you the support you need, that's going to be more supportive than what our services can do for you. I explain the difference. Home health that I do is a restorative service, and hospice is a comfort service. And they're able to provide this and this and this and this benefit. What do you think? And I always try to open the conversation. What are your thoughts about that? Or how do you feel about that? Or have you all considered that yet? Or is it something that you've thought about yet?
Right.
Because you never know, they might say, we were actually just talking about that last night. I'm glad you brought it up. I've had people say that too. Or I've had people say, we kind of thought he needed hospice, but we figured it was your call. So they were waiting for us to bring it up. Or we have people that say, absolutely not, I'm not even willing to talk about it. And you can go a little further and say, okay, well, could you just kind of talk me through your thought process? I hear you that you don't want to consider it, but can you kind of explain to me why, so that I can understand it, instead of just saying, well, you need it and this is what we're doing.
So it's mostly like individual thing, like everyone take a different way, right? So some people really understanding and they know what they're actually doing, and some people you need to convince them or like show them like a different guidance. And yeah, like asking like a lot of questions, it really helps rather than you talking majority of the time. So you rather listen to them, then you can react to it and have like a better answer for the questions, and that conversation makes it easier. Am I right?
Yes, you never know where somebody's mind is if you don't ask.
Yeah.
You know, I can assume that you could see that the person needed hospice and that you were right on board with it, and that it was obvious that this person needed hospice. That would be
Yeah.
a really dangerous and unreasonable and irresponsible assumption to make. But for me to assume that you are going to be very resistant to it may not be accurate either. You might be surprisingly open to it because the suffering is so intense, and anything that can provide relief is welcome. So I can't know how you're feeling and how you're going to react unless I ask.
Yeah.
And then I can figure out if you're on board with it. My next thing is, okay, well, let me call the person who's going to help make that transition for you. Or if you're dead set against it, maybe we can problem solve through why. You know, a lot of people, they won't consider it because they think, well, you're just sending me over there to die. And to explain, no, I understand why you feel that way, because 20, 30 years ago, that was true.
Yeah.
But let me, would you let me kind of walk you through all of the changes that have happened with hospice in the last couple of decades, because it's a very different service now than it was before. And I see if I can open that person up to being willing to have the conversation. But forcing your opinion, forcing your will, or just throwing something on somebody without prepping them first, or without trying to test the waters a little to see how are they going to react to it. You're trying to kind of anticipate how are they going to react to this, so that I know what I need to do next to best support them.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree on that. So I'm still staying on a medical side of it next couple of minutes. So for people to understand more. So a lot of people have like a diagnosis of cancer, or like have some kind of major illnesses and they need surgery or chemotherapy. And a lot of people actually decline to go on certain things. They prefer like not to have a surgery and not to go for chemotherapy, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna give up on my life and I'm not gonna take ahead. In the certain situation, it's really hard to convince someone to go for like actual treatment they needed. So how is a professional like yourself like will convince someone like this way? That would be like really awkward, isn't it?
Right. It's very difficult. But one of the things that I always have to keep in mind as a health professional is that the patient has the right to what we call autonomy. So they have the right to determine their course.